What's up, people? Welcome to our video series, Cost of Building in Ghana. If you happen to be a first timer, I will encourage you to check the previous episodes so that you have a fair idea where we've come from.
So in this episode, which will be the 16th in the series, we will be looking at the conduit and plumbing fixtures in the concrete slab. I must say that this will be the penultimate episode as far as the structure is concerned. I'm hoping to release the last video for the structures hopefully this week. So after that, we can now look at the other fixtures. We will look at the electricals, that's the wiring, the water system, the meters. Many of you send emails regarding these. We will look at the plastering, the doors, and basically everything that we will be dealing with until the building complete. We will give you a step-by-step guide on what to do when you get to that stage of your project. So as you can see, they are taking a measurement of the positions of the circular boxes. Those are the outlets or the openings that they will fish the cables through. It's important that they measure so that when they fix the lights, everything will be centered in the building. Like I mentioned previously in one of the episodes, it's important you stick to a good conduit pipe, and like I suggested, it's always better to go with Interplus. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's important to know that if you buy a good one, you likely not have problem. You can easily be swindled. Don't get cheated. The workers sometimes may buy a cheaper product and tell you it's Interplus. So as you can see in the video, the Interplus will have the name on, and you can see the production date and so on. And by the way, this is not being sponsored by Interplus. I'm just giving information based on my knowledge and experience from our project. You would notice there are stones under the iron rods. Those are supposed to ensure concrete cover once we pour the concrete. Usually you need a concrete cover of about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. In this case, we are using stones because we have the stones for the cladding, which is even in terms of height. So we just need to put those under, and then we get an even concrete cover once we pour. When we were doing the second casting for the 3-bedroom side, we didn't have those stones. So in the case where you don't have these stones of equal height, what you can do is just get a bag of cement, let them make squares of 2 by 2 inches. Basically what we did was we made a form with 2x4s, and then we just used the cement with very little sand and then poured it in there, and then we just divided it into squares of 2 inches by 2 inches with a height of 1 inch. The conduit pipes are 1/2 inch, so there'll be enough space for you to push it under. Alternatively, if you can get those plastic stands, you can use those. Those are not very common in Ghana in most of the hardware shops, but if you get it, that's also an option. But to be honest, I feel the cement option works perfectly fine. When we tried it on the second casting for the 3-bedroom side, it was fine, but since we got the stones, we didn't do that again. As you can see on your screen, there are 2 bundles of the conduit pipes, and that is enough for the 2-bedroom side, which is about 40 feet by 35 feet. A bundle consists of 25 of those pipes. Okay, so let's look at the plumbing. So as always, we buy the Interplus because of the quality. So that is what you see. It's 4 inches, and then 2 inches, and then 3 inches. So for those who want to do your estimation, they come in a length of 20 feet. So at least if you doing your estimate, you know what quantity you will need. You will soon see the cost for each of those pipe sizes. And most of the time, a lot of the plumbers in Ghana, when it comes to the bends or elbows, they would write that you should just buy a bend which is 90 degrees, but there are two types of bends. We have the long radius bend and then the short radius bend. So the long radius bend is what is called the slow bend in Ghana. So with that, it helps with a gentle flow of the waste, so you have very little chance of blockade. Whereas the short radius bend, which is also 90 degrees, has a shorter flow space, so it has a higher chance of blockade. The advantage of the short radius or the normal bend, which most of the plumbers uses, if you are restricted with space, that helps because you don't have that luxury of that long gentle bend. Otherwise, it's always better to use the slow bend. So another thing I found out is if you don't have the slow bend available, which was in the case when I went to buy, you can use two 45 degrees bend. So that is what we have used. As you can see, you combine two of the 45s and that gives you a long radius bend, and this is definitely way better than using the short one. When they give you the list, they'll just write bend, and that is what they use. So I made that mistake when I was doing the connection from the building to the biodigester. The good thing though is because this is outside the building, if there happens to be any problems, we can easily work on it without having to remove any tiles or fittings in the building. I educated myself, so where it matters most on this floor, we were able to do the right thing. That bend you see at the end of the pipe is a 90-degree bend. Compare that to where he's fixing it. You will notice that has a longer stretch compared to that short stretch. So just take note of that and let them use the long radius bend at every corner that they will want to fix a bend instead of the short one, because it's going to reduce the chances of a blockage. So I am sure you have noticed that the electricians and plumber are working at the same time. Usually that's what I do, because when I'm in Ghana, because of time, I need to get things done as soon as possible. So usually I get the two of them to work on the same day. But what you need to realize is that whatever the case, whether you want them to come work on separate days, the electricians must always come first, because the putting of the stones under the iron rod is the work of the electrician. So once that is done, you can get the plumber to work. The reason is, if you let the plumber do the work before the electricians put the stone under, the slope that he's made is going to be messed up, and you're not going to have a very good drain for your sewage. So always make sure that the stones are put under the iron rod, and then once the plumber comes, he's going to make sure that it has the right slope for the waste to go through. What you need to notice is, if the slope is too steep, the liquid is going to flow quickly and leave the solid part behind, and if it's flat, it means that it's not also going to flow. So they usually have they tilt it at a gentle slope. I think it's about 1 inch for every 4 feet. So once they finish with the gluing, they would then tie the pipe with the correct slope, so that on the day of the casting there wouldn't be any movement or shaking for the slope to be messed up. Again, that is the normal elbow or bend. Compare it to where the glue is. You will notice that is a more gentle bend. So this is the final job. As you can see, the pipes are under. You should always remember to have them fix the fan hook, so that you don't have to drill the slab to fix the fan. All that is required is to get a 12 mm or 10 mm iron rod and then just drive it through the plywood. So you remember in previous episode I said there's no point in buying the end caps for this. You can always have them folded like what you see on the screen, because it's absolutely waste of money to buy the end cap. One end cap is about $1. So for just this floor, if I were to use the end cap, I would have spent about $15 just to cover them, whereas I could use this approach which serves the same purpose. The idea is to prevent stones and sand from entering. You also see one of the end caps. I had this lying somewhere, so I decided to use that. Otherwise this is fine because it serves the same purpose. So that is the end cap, the 4-inch end cap. I had just one lying down as I indicated. Usually when you get the plumbers to write the estimate for you, they're going to tell you to buy end cap. Just tell them you don't want to use the end cap. They should bend it over like you see, so that you don't end up wasting buying something that will be thrown away once you are done with the project. It's going to be just waste of money. So as you can see, it is well covered and there's no way anything is going to enter. So again, absolutely pointless buying those end caps for $1 each. That's about 6 cedis for one. Okay, let's look at the total costs for this stage. We would sort as usual to get everything together. Yeah, so if you look at the items, you would notice that I don't have 3 inches pipe in there. Either I forgot to capture it or I may have had an old one. Again, the price for the 4-inch pipe is for the half piece, which is the 10 feet. Mostly they cut it into 2 to help with storage and packing. So the total, as you can see at the bottom right of your screen, it's about 2,500. But looking at the current prices, I'm sure if you should budget 3,000, it should be fine. The Interplast pipe is about 7 cedis or 7 cedis 50 pesos. The 4-inch pipe, the half is about 50 cedis. There's been a slight adjustment, so I'm sure if you budget 3,000 Ghana cedis, which is about $500, that should work out fine. Okay, so for the bonus discussion for today, we will be looking at how to determine the right iron rod size for your project. Now, many of you have reached out asking if it's okay to use a specific iron rod size. First of all, if you're doing a project like ours and you're going past a single story, you will be required to have an architectural drawing with a structural drawing certified by a structural engineer before you get your permit. Again, if you're just putting up a normal residential building, you would have a plan, because you would need a plan to get a building permit. So we are touching on this so that you can easily get to know the right iron rod size from your building plan. So we will start from the foundation. We'll look at how you would know the right iron rod size for your mats, and then for your pillars, and then we'll look at your staircase, and then we'll look at the slab. Okay, so the drawing to your left is the reinforcement drawing for the mat, and then the one to your right is the reinforcement drawing for the column or pillar. I'm not going to go so technical with the details. It's just basically for you to determine the iron rod size. So what you need to pay attention to is the readings I will point out. So the first number in the reading shows how many quantities or how many pieces of the rods you need, and then the number with the R is just the bar mark. Now, to always determine the size of the iron rod, you are going to take the first two numbers in the bar mark, and that should tell you the size of the iron rod in millimeters. So here you would notice that the size of the bar mark is R1604. So what that means is the first two numbers will be the size of the iron rod. So in this case, it's going to be 16 iron rod. Of course, there you have the spacing, which is 150. That's 6 inches spacing. But like I said, I'm not going to go too technical. It's just to help you know the size of your iron rod. And if you look at the drawing to your right, which is the column or pillar, you'll notice two writings. The one written upwards, that's the 19R1001 at 150 millimeters cc, is the stirrup size. So as we indicated, the first two numbers after the R tells you the size of the iron rod. So in this case, the stirrups, that's the rings, the iron rod you need for the rings should be 10 millimeters, and you will need 19 of those. Pays at 150 millimeters, which is 6 inches center to center. The quantity or the pieces which is in front is not much of a problem, because you can easily measure on the site if you know the length to determine how many you would need. So basically this video is just touching on just you determining the size of the iron rod. And then if you look at the writing just by that, which is the 6R1605, that is the size of the iron rods for the pillar. So that should tell you you need 16 and you need 6 of those, 3 in front, 3 at the back. Let's move on to the next drawing, which will be the staircase. So here as well, you would notice that the writing follows the same rule like we just previously discussed. If you look at the first writing, which is 14R1201, you would notice that the first number will indicate how many pieces of those iron rods you need, and the iron rod size in this case is 12 and the spacing will be at 150 millimeters, which is 6 inches. This is typically how the writing is in most Ghanaian drawings. But you may have it slightly different with extra details like the iron rod type to use and so on, if you have it drawn for you by someone in a different country. But the principle basically will be the same. Usually the number after the alphabet will often indicate the iron rod size. Okay, so let's look at the slab. And the same convention as we've discussed previously will be used for the slab as well. So if you look at the first number to the left, it's 13R1221, which means you need a 12 bar for the slab, and you need 13 of those pieces at that particular location. The only addition in this case is because the slab requires 2 bars, you will see TB and DB. That may change depending on where the drawing was done. The TB is just the top bar, and then the DB is the bottom bar or the down bar. It may vary, but usually the drawing would have a key to interpret those.
So that is it for this episode. Feel free to post all your questions in the comment section below. We certainly do answer all questions on Sundays. thank you for watching. So watch out for the next episode and see you in a bit. Enjoy, people.